Good morning. You listen to FloorDaily.net, and I'm Kemp Harr. This morning, my guest is Russell Grizzle, who's president and CEO with Mannington. Russell, how you doing?
I'm terrific this morning, Kemp. How are you?
I'm great. Good to be with you. You know, I've been following the Yellow Jackets, and they were looking pretty good until they ran into Virginia Tech. I guess they couldn't pull that one off, could they?
They could not. Disappointing outcome.
Glad to see them whoop up on North Carolina and Duke, though. That was good, wasn't
Big comeback win. So we'll take it so far this year with their record.
Well, thanks for being with me. We got some big news to talk about. You've just announced that you're doing a major expansion in the LVT category in Madison, Georgia. Let's get into that in just a minute. I'm sure our listeners would like to hear a little bit about how business conditions are. Why don't you tell us what you're seeing out there in the marketplace?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Kemp. In terms of general business conditions, we see them slowly getting better. So across the board, many areas are just slowly coming out of a very difficult time for the industry over the last few years, but we think there is still plenty of room for the pace to accelerate. We believe there's a lot of pent-up demand out there, and I think in general just people need a little spark, a little enthusiasm, a little less uncertainty. And while we've been through this, we are continuing to invest in product. We're trying to implement new lean manufacturing techniques and new technology. We continue to invest in the flooring industry's future.
Well, before we get into the details about what's going on in Madison, let's just remind people, you grew up in this flooring business, you spent 31 years at Milliken, and now I believe it's almost 3 years now since you've moved over to take the helm over at Mannington, right?
Yes, I've been with Mannington now a little over 3.5 years. I've been CEO now for 8 months.
Just give us a rundown, because we're going to talk about specifics on this Madison, Georgia plant. But when you look at your total facilities and where they are, I know, for example, you produce rubber in California and Florida. You have a hardwood plant in North Carolina. Help fill in there, if you would.
Well, first of all, Kemp, Mannington is now approaching its 98th anniversary.
That's right.
We started in 2015, so in 2 more years, we'll be celebrating 100 years of business in the flooring industry. So we're very excited about that. And the company's continued to expand. We started off with our plant here in Salem, New Jersey. So we still have that, and actually we make 3 different products in Salem. We have a very large facility in Calhoun, Georgia for our carpet operation.
Right. We
have 2 plants in High Point, North Carolina, one for wood and one for laminate. We have a plant in Elps, Alabama, that's part of our wood product line. And as you mentioned, we make our Burke flooring, primarily rubber products, in Eustis, Florida, and San Jose, California. When we acquired Amtico, we also acquired 2 plants in Georgia, Madison and Conyers. And it was also our first entry into the international markets with plants in Coventry and Solihull, England.
Okay, so that's a pretty diverse mix of plant and some manufacturing overseas. Probably one of the most diverse mix of flooring products in the market.
Yeah, we offer slightly over 50,000 different SKUs to the marketplace, and we are privately held by the Campbell family, have been now. We're on the 4th generation, and the 5th generation is in place, and plans are ready for that to take us into the 2nd century.
All right, so let's focus on Madison now. You are a privately held company, as we mentioned, so you don't give us many details as far as the dollar investment that we see in some of these other announcements, but I'm sure it's probably a major investment. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're already the largest LVT manufacturer in the world. Is that right?
We think so, with the combination of Mannington's LVT line, and then when we added Amtico on an international basis, we think we're the largest out there supplying LVT right now.
We actually take a look, in our annual report, and in 2012, we had you estimated at around $320 million just in the resilient category. So for U.S. consumption, that puts you second behind Armstrong, but as you've mentioned already, you're a global player, and that's just U.S. dollar and U.S. business.
But it is a very important category to us. The whole resilient category is the foundation of our company going back to its beginnings, and we continue to see that as a very good market for us and continue to invest in it.
Give us some specifics about what you're doing in Madison.
Well, Kemp, you mentioned we made the acquisition of Amtico in March of 2012. With that acquisition, we have made the announcement at that time that we would be onshoring the Mannington commercial LVT line. In doing so, we've already doubled the output and capacity of our Madison and Conyers facility. This expansion will double that again or quadruple it from the time of the acquisition, and it will be expanding beyond just commercial into all of our residential that go under the brand name Adura LVT products.
So that's big news.
And it will make us completely vertical in the supply chain. And we also, in this plan, will be investing in some new technology that will be new to the marketplace in an effort to maintain our leadership in this category.
So at one point when you bought it, it was just one of 3 Amtico plants, the 2 domestic plants, and now you've already doubled the size. And with this expansion, you're going to also service some of your residential demand.
That's exactly right.
And when you're finished, I think you're breaking ground here in a month or two, and then when you're finished in 2015, this will bring 200 more jobs to the facility, right?
That's exactly right. We will be adding, I think the number is exactly 219 jobs by the end of 2015 or so. That's just based on our forecast. And Kemp, I think you know this, LVT category has been growing unbelievably fast pace right through a very difficult time for the industry. That's based on our forecast. We've always exceeded that so far. So it could be significantly more than the 219 by that time, we hope.
All right. So, if we think about a decision like this, you and I have talked, I think it was at Neocon, a big part of this is moving jobs back to this country. I remember your campaign last year around this Made in the USA, and that's something you guys, as a privately family-owned company, have always been behind. That's a big part of it, but there's also another service element to it. I mean, you're actually, when you're done with this, going to be shortening your window of being able to service your customers almost in half, right?
Even more than that. We have some great partners, but Mannington LVT, when we made the acquisition of Amtico, was a 100% sourced product. Has very long lead times, and we find that very difficult to manage and continue to provide great service to our customers. With a very long product line and many aesthetic options that we offer out there. So that whole supply chain can be very difficult to manage so that you have terrific service. So this will allow us to go from a very long lead time sourced out of China to a very short lead time in manufacturing of about 2 weeks. So we're very excited about that, and that gives us the flexibility. So in conjunction with what we've been working on within Mannington of being lean and flexible in our manufacturing processes, we think the domestic manufacturing and that service component can really just continue to expand our growth in this category.
So we talked about Made in the USA. We talked about shortened window, but it's also going to be, the latest and greatest manufacturing technology, so it could potentially enhance the products that you come out with, right?
We think so. We are going to continue to search the world for new technologies, and we will be investing to maintain that leadership. So we think there's some other things out there that are beginning to come available into the manufacturing realm for this product that we can apply that will help us even improve that service and keep us more competitive well into the future in this category.
We've watched during this last recession how the consumer has put more emphasis on buying American-made goods. When they go into the store, they may not have that on their mind, but when they see this option versus that option, we're hearing that that's making a difference. Do you think it makes a difference on the commercial market as well?
I think in all segments of the market, I think everything else being equal, people would prefer to purchase from U.S. manufacturers that are made here onshore. So I think you also see a growing trend across many industries of onshoring jobs now because the competitive nature of U.S. manufacturing has dramatically closed the gap in terms of cost over the last few years and projected to be at parity now by 2015 or 2016 if you account for the changes in productivity.
Well, congratulations on this news. The big news is that with this quadrupling of capacity in Madison, Georgia, Mannington strengthens their position as the leading producer of LVT in the world.
Kemp, I'd really like to thank the officials from the state of Georgia for helping us work through this. Carl Campbell and Jennifer Nelson, Governor Deal in Georgia, as well as the local officials there in Madison and Morgan County. They've been very helpful in us working through this transition for us.
I'm sure your roots in Georgia were an asset as you were negotiating this expansion.
Well, we found Georgia to be a great place for manufacturing. Very supportive, great infrastructure, including the port in Savannah, the Atlanta airport. And one of the big factors I would add to all this is in this transition of this number of jobs and this number of products coming back on shore was the Georgia Quick Start program, which actually helps with the training and skill level as we try to ramp up.
All right, Russell, well, it's great to talk to you again. Been talking to Russell Grizzle, who's president and CEO with Mannington, and you've been listening to Kempar and FloorDaily.net.